Good morning, y'all. Fuzzy Biker here at Baxter Cycle in the mighty Mini-tropolis. This is another in the series on the 100,000 kilometer Royal Enfield Himalayan videos. I think this is number 4 or 5. I have one more to do after this, I think. This is going to be all about maintenance and cost and things like that. Now, I can tell you what I did and when I did it and all that stuff. We did all the maintenance, every bit of maintenance that needed. We did it as required, almost every, not quite everything, but you know, everything big. Like for instance, we didn't change the fork oil, and we didn't take apart the gooseneck to repack the bearings or do that because there was no, we didn't have any feel for the need to do that. So what we did daily, what I did daily, every day I would check my oil. It's very easy to do. I have a flashlight right here. I just get that flashlight out, hit the button if I can find it, right there, shine it right down there. You can see it right there. I check my antifreeze, which is checked right here in this area. You can shine the light behind it, it'll glow. And then I would check my air pressure, my tire pressure, with the sensor that I have right here. Always had that. And then the chain. I would always lube my chain every day on these long rides. If I didn't ride 100 miles that day, I wouldn't lube it. But and then I would check it, for tension. Adjusting the chain, it actually, like you'd put a chain on for 5,000 miles, you wouldn't have to touch it, 5, 6, 7,000 miles. And then after that, it would start creeping into where you'd have to do something. And by the end, it was like, daily almost until you got home. And I actually got left in the middle of nowhere because I let it go too long. So chain was a big deal. I would also look the bike over every day, especially the tires. So every day I would, walk out to the bike. Or actually, anytime I got gas, I would look at my tires. I just always do that automatic from when I was a kid. Look at the tires for a defect or something stuck in them, and something like that. Look at that tire, and that's something. 8,000 miles on that already. I'd look for any kind of leak, things that, I grew up in the era of 2 strokes and small singles, and you just had to do that. As a matter of fact, when I lost the bolt on my kickstand, my buddy that I grew up with, he said, if you'd have checked that, you wouldn't have lost the bolt. It wasn't a bolt, it was a pin. And, he was right. Back in the day, that you just always did that. And I do that with this bike, especially in a long trip. If I can find anything ahead of time, I go ahead and do it. Go ahead and check, we want to head off any trouble that you might run into. There's my, we got a couple new stickers on there, I see. I love it. So oil changes, we did all our oil changes per schedule about. I think we did 10 or 11 oil changes. It's got 62,000. We did them every 6,000. On this bike, you're supposed to change your oil every 6,000. I don't know what that is in kilometers, maybe 10,000 kilometers. I think that's every 10,000 kilometers. The oil I used was always Motul 7100. And I hope I got this right. I think I should have looked at this before. I think it was 1550 or 1050 Motul. I like the Motul. You guys are gonna laugh. I like it because it's red. I'm a red guy and it's red. Like I call it dragon blood. So that's what I always used. That stuff can cost, it varies. I suppose it's $15 to $20 a quart. So this bike takes 2 quarts. And then I always got the Royal Enfield oil filter, which is under that cap there. Only trouble we ever had with that was I broke the cap one day. So bad on me, right? I think the new ones have a different part number, so we don't know if they changed them or not. But then the next one would be valve checks. This bike's had at least 6, you're supposed to check. The first valve check is at 6,000. The second valve check is at, 6,000 miles after that, so 12,000. Then after that, it's every 12,000 miles. We did all of ours on schedule. I think we did one extra one, actually. I think we checked them again at, so at 6,000 we were good, 6,000, 12,000 we were good. So I think we checked them again 5,000 miles later. That one was just a little bit, I think the intakes were a little tight. And so we adjusted the valves. That's the only time we ever had to adjust the valves. What does it take to do that? Well, they have to take the tank off and, take everything apart, the valve cover off the engine, move the throttle body, all that stuff. So at that time, that's when I do my air filters. In the beginning, I had the paper element air filters. We were doing that one day and somebody said, "Do you want a DNA filter?" So we put that in there. So now when I do that, we're going to do this next week on this bike. We will take the tank off, we'll take that filter out, we'll clean it, we'll dry it, we'll oil it, we'll dry it, all that neat stuff, then put it back in. DNA air filter. Adjust and replace chain. So I think I just talked about that. When you put a new chain on, generally you don't have to do much for quite a while. I keep an eye on it. Like I said, I check it every day and I lube it every day. I keep my chain lube in this box here. I'm sure somebody's going to want to know what kind of chain lube I have. And you know what? I don't know what kind of chain lube I have, so let's go look. I think it's Bel Ray, maybe? Yes, there it is. Bel Ray Super Clean Chain Lube. And what I like about it is it's white. And when I spray it on my chain, I can see that, you know, I can see where I've sprayed it. I used to use the, I think I had Motul for a while, and that was kind of a yellow liquid. And one, it was hard to spot, and the other one is it, you know, it would leave a little yellow puddle under my bike, and that kind of looked weird. So that's the chain lube I use on this bike. The Bel Ray, for that reason, I guess. Is it the best? You know, I don't know what the best chain lube is. I think the best is just lube your chain every day. So that's what we do there. Replace chain. I've had 7 chains on this bike. The first one went the stock chain went 14,000 miles. What would that be in kilometers? 15, almost 20,000 kilometers. The chains after that, I think the second chain, well anyway, I had bad luck with the chain after that. And then we put a chain on, and getting ready to go to Alaska. That chain only had like 6,000 or 7,000 miles on it, but we went in and changed it because we wanted a brand new chain to go to Alaska. New chain and sprocket, so we did that. And I think that chain we got over 14,000. And anyway, somewhere in there, I let a chain go too long. I was in Wyoming, and I lost the chain. And the place, I think it was Elway Motorsports in Laramie, great place. I called them at 8:30. They opened at 8:30. I called them at 8:30. They had me picked up, you know, 35 minutes later. They had my bike done. So by 12:30 that day, I was on my bike driving away. So I really appreciate that. However, the chain they had was not a sealed O-ring. It was the only one they had, and I appreciate that. And they put it on. So when we got back, we replaced that chain, replaced the sprockets, we replaced the cush drive all at that time. Just, you know, we did it all at that time. And I appreciate what they did for us, but they patched me up so I could get home, and I really do appreciate that. So that's what we do with the chains. What are the costs on the chain, and what kind of chain do I use? I don't know what kind of chains I've been using. I come to Baxter's and I tell them I want a really good chain, and they do it. And I don't keep my paperwork. Apparently I don't. I couldn't find it anyway. So I can't tell you what brands they were. And this is Sunday and nobody's here, so I can't ask them that either. But maybe I can find out and put it down below. If I can, I'll put it down below. Cost on a chain, a couple $100 installed, maybe $300 to $400, somewhere in there. So, you know, it's not cheap, but it's not expensive either. I'll try to put that, I'll try to corner these guys about that and put it down. You know, if I can get that done before tomorrow. I'm trying to, anyway, I'll get that done. Tires and cush drive. So every time we change the tires, we do a cush drive on the back. And the cush drive is a rubber thingy-bobber. It's different on the tubeless tires than it is on the tube tires. This bike started with tube tires. Now it has tubeless. But every time we do it, we just change that. And it really makes a lot of difference. This, you know, 8,000 miles ago, they put new tires, chains, sprockets, and cush drive. Boy, it was just like a whole different bike. It was the same bike, but it was a whole different bike. Felt different, you know, felt really good. So it makes a difference. Tire cost. I run Dunlop Trail Max Missions now. The original tire was a Seat. The Seat lasted, I think, 7,600 on the back. I think I ran 20,000 on the Seat for the front, which is an incredible amount of miles. I try to buy, the Dunlop Trail Max Mission is a hard tire, which means it lasts a long time. It's not going to have the feel of, let's say, a Pirelli Scorpion. I've never had one of those on this bike. I had some of those on a Interceptor, and those things just feel great. You can feel every bit of the road. You know, they grab good. You can really tell the difference, but they'll wear out quickly compared to, you know, and I ride a lot of miles. So if I had a Pirelli, you know, if I had a tire that wore out in 5,000 miles on the rear, you know, I'd be halfway to where I was going. I need a new tire. So I run these hard tires. Now, how do they do in the rain? You know, what kind of luck do I have them? All that stuff. They do fine. You know, you have to ride your motorcycle. You know, if you start to slip, you got to adjust. And I just haven't had those kind of problems. I drive. You know, I make up for that with my driving skills, I guess is what I'm saying. You know, you got to learn how to drive your bike. So running a harder tire means fewer tire changes, and so the tire costs a little more up front, but you save money. You know, tire change, like, I don't know what they cost. You know, $100, something like that, if you have them do everything. And if you buy an expensive premium tire that is made to last long, you have fewer tire changes. And that's, like I said, we're on our 4th set of tires at 62,000 miles or 100,000 kilometers. I really like these tires. I don't know if I've gotten that across to anybody. There might be other good ones out there that are just as hard or just as, you know, long lasting, but I haven't tried to find those yet. I know they're out there. Brakes. So this is an interesting one. I grew up in the era of drum brakes. All my first bikes, I think the first bike I ever rode had a disc brake with a. It wasn't hydraulic. It was a cable. I think that's what it had. And see if you can imagine that, a mechanical disc brake, and that's what the bike had. I remember seeing the way you don't want to hear my stories. The brakes. The front disc is still on the original pads. It's 62,000. We're going to change those this coming week. We're finally going to change them. I've had 3 sets on the back, 2 or 3 sets. I think the stock set plus 2, and the back ones are probably good because I think we put this new set on at 8,000 miles ago when we did all the work on the back. So going back to the drum brake thing. Back in the day, drum brakes would lock up. So when you learned how to ride a motorcycle, you were very leery about the front brake. You only used it you did use it, but you used it very gingerly. And so you became very dependent on the back brake. And I think I have that still in my DNA. So that's something I have to get over, because I should be relying, modern brakes are excellent. The bikes have ABS. There's no reason I should be riding like that. And I've actually, after 8,000 miles ago, after we did this, I've actually tried to change my ways and trying to work on that. So next on my list is antifreeze. We've changed the antifreeze a couple times. I think it takes like 1.5 quarts. It's not that much. It goes pretty quick. I've got battery on the list there. I've got the stock battery in this bike. 62,000 miles. We're still running with the stock battery at 100,000 kilometers. So pretty good. My original Himalayan is 4 years old. Last October it'd be 4 years old. This is November, I think. So that actually has the original battery in it. The whole time I own the bike, I ride my bikes a lot, so the batteries never get a chance to wear out. And in the winter I always keep it on tenders, and right now my original Himalayan has a tender on it, so it's all working good. All working good. Okay, costs. This is going to be. I'm going to say the words, and then I'm going to put the price down below. So if I can, an oil filter. Like I said, I use Motul 7100, and I use a Royal Enfield air filter. DNA air filter, I think that was $80. So I think that was an $80. Maybe it was $100, something like that. But you can get all, and by the way, you can get all this at backtorecycle.com. Valve check, that's one cost. They check the valves. It's an overhead, dual overhead cam with a bucket shim under bucket system. It checks the valves. If they're out of spec, then they charge. Then you have to go a step further and adjust the valves. On this system, that's a lot more work because you have to take the cams out. So, like I said, I've only had to do the adjustment once. Chain and sprocket cost. I talked a little bit about that already. What does a full set cost? How much does a chain cost? And it depends on the quality you buy, of course. Tires and cush drives. I don't know what these tires cost online, but I think they're like $200 each for the tires. Maybe $250 for the rear and something like that. Maybe $150 for the front, something like that. But go to a dealer and get your tires. Whoever's going to install them, generally do that, because then if there's a defect in the tire, and they can spot it before they put it on, and mere mortals like me may not be able to spot those kind of defects. So it's just if there's any problems, then it's all on them. They can help you out. Cush drives are not expensive. I want to say, I can't remember if it was $15 or $30, but they're pretty cheap. And you have them put on when they change the back tire. Well, they've already got it all apart. The cush drive's literally right in their face. All they have to do is pull the old one out and stick the new one in. So no big deal at all. And again, same with brakes. I'm not sure what the brakes cost. Maybe $30 for a set of pads. So not bad at all. Not bad at all. Maintenance we're going to change the fork fluid in the front. That was something we did not do. We were going to change the clutch cable, I think, this coming week. That's something we talked about doing before, but we wanted to run and see if the bike would go the 100. So Royal Enfield tests these bikes to 100,000 kilometers. We wanted to see if this bike would go that far with it. This is kind of, I don't know how to do this. I'm not this kind of guy usually, but I got to bring this up because this is really important to me. One of the reasons I bought this bike. So why did I buy this bike? One of the reasons I bought this bike was affordability. Capability and affordability. First was capability. I think this is more capable than a large heavy-duty ADV for the kind of riding I do. I ride the long miles, and a big ADV, BMW, Tiger, a big Honda, a big Triumph. Those are all, Ducati. I even have Ducati on my list. Those are all great bikes, and they perform great on the highway. They are fabulous machines. They got luxury like you wouldn't believe. They're also very, very expensive. They, you know, what about taking them out into the real, I drive from here to Colorado, then Colorado Mark and I hop on our bikes and we climb up, like I think it was Columbine Pass, all baby heads all the way. Yes, you can take your bikes on those. We got caught on, we went to Moab and got caught on this trail. He was on his Himalayan. I was on my Bear. I had the wrong bike. He was going up and down without any problems. My buddy on his Tiger did have problems, and those bigger bikes are really cool, but they're heavier, they're more top heavy, they're also much more expensive to buy, they're much more expensive to repair, and they're also much more expensive to maintain. I was going to buy myself a Tiger at one point, a Tiger 900 Rally, Tiger Rally Pro. I think that's one of the best, most amazing motorcycles I've ever rode in my life. I wanted one, it was expensive, no big deal. I thought I'll do it. Start checking into the maintenance, and the maintenance cost for like a valve check was, astronomical. And the big joke now is, if you want to buy like a used Ducati or a used Triumph or something like that, what you'll find is you'll have them, they're for sale, just short of when their maintenance is used. So if the maintenance is at 15,000 or 10,000, you'll find them at 9,000 or 14,000 miles. And that's because the maintenance costs are very high, on those kind of bikes. Maintenance costs on these are much lower. So that makes the bike much more usable, much more, I go out and ride it and I don't have to worry about miles because it's a usable machine because the maintenance costs are so reasonable. It's also a usable machine because when you buy the bike, those bikes, and again, I love those bikes will depreciate more in the first year than this bike will cost overall. In many cases, especially something as beautiful like as a Pan American or, those are fabulous machines. I don't think they're as capable in the rough stuff, and they are, like I said, they'll depreciate more in the first year. So the reasons I bought this bike: low cost of entry, $6,300 for one of these, low cost of maintenance, and the long maintenance intervals. 12,000 miles for a valve adjustment or valve check, not even an adjustment, just a valve check. That's pretty darn reasonable. And again, my list is compared to BMW, Honda, Triumph, Ducati, whatever your brand of choice is. So look at maintenance costs before you buy a motorcycle. And then I'm going to take that a step further because I get this question all the time. Hey, I bought a bike and then now I got to do my maintenance, and I'm calling around. And it's big bucks, and my first service is $600 or whatever. When you buy your bike, talk to the dealer about, can I get the first maintenance included in the price, or added to the price, or that way it's out of the way. Find out, maybe buy a maintenance for a year or two even. I think that's reasonable to ask your dealer about. All I can say is no, right? Anyway, it's a great bike at 100,000 kilometers. It's been fabulous. I really enjoy it. Had a lot of fun on it. What are we going to do with it next? I don't know. I bought this bike. I was going to keep it for a year. We're on our second year now. We're 14 months in. I think we're going to keep it, and we're just going to keep adding miles to it and just see how far. I'll keep it until it is unrepairable, which so far that's not an issue, or until something shinier comes along and I decide to trade it off. How's that sound? Speaking of shiny, look at this beautiful old Triumph right here. I don't know what that is exactly, but it's gorgeous. I found it sitting here. And then look at this thing, huh? That is a Baxter Custom Works. That is real chrome. That's not a wrap. That tank is actually chrome, and that's just in the beginning. All they've done is put the tank on, and there's a lot more they're going to do to this. So that's future stuff. Now, if y'all are in the market for a new or used Royal Enfield, Triumph, classic British bike of any type, need parts, accessories, thingamajigs, doodads, helmets, jackets, gloves, get yourself over to Baxter Cycle. They're in the process of redoing their whole warehouse system. They got a new warehouse. The goal is to try to make parts availability much easier. They want to have a lot more stuff in stock. They've got a system that they're using that's better than it was before, and they want to have, get a hold of Baxter Cycle. Now, here in the Mighty, it's a cold, windy day. It's kind of spitting snow out there. It was snowing actually yesterday. Cold, windy day here. I'm not going to do any biking today. Maybe later this week. Anyway, BaxterCycle.com. Tell them Fuzzy Biker sent you. And get off the couch. Get off that easy chair. Get out there and live life, my friends. Wahoo! You can't smile right back. That's the guy. That's the guy that owns it.
Oh, that's...
Dude.
You gotta keep the greaser side down.
Wahoo! Vermont. Wahoo!
Wahoo!
Wahoo, Alaska!